Welcome to episode 10 of Beardychiel's Knitting Banter, 500 miles stone. I'm your host John Glenn, also known as Beardychiel, and you'll find me as Beardychiel on Facebook, on Ravelry, on Instagram, and you'll find me on email as beardychiel@gmail.com. Here we are, back in episode 10, and I've got a couple of notes in front of me. I have some works in progress, I have some completed objects, and I have a vintage pattern. So let's just see how it goes. Today is the 3rd of February 2017. So what can I say? For all of those who have come back one more time, it's a pleasure to have you back with us. If you're joining me for the first time, thank you for dropping in and visiting Beardychiel's Knitting Banter. I hope you enjoy your visit. I would say to you that if you enjoy your visit, please feel free to give us a like and even subscribe and come back. That way you won't miss anything. I am told that the number of I am told that the number of likes I get has an effect on my YouTube ratings. Well, I'm not really a ratings magnet. I am here for fun for me and fun for the people who watch me. But if it helps improve the overall performance of what we get from YouTube, go for it. Give us a thumbs up and see if it makes a difference. I don't know. I'll find out. Now, I'd like to say a big thanks to all of those who have offered feedback on the change of format to using not one, but 2 cameras. And I would say to you that the feedback has been very positive, so I've continued in this episode with 2 cameras. The feedback on the head cam for works in progress was super positive. I will continue with that later on in this episode. Some of the works in progress are long silent pause, they're long pregnant pause. Some of the works in progress are at the beginning, some in the middle, some near the end. Suck it and see. Now, I had said here, thanks to all who offered feedback on the new format with multiple cameras. Please feel free to like and subscribe. Apparently likes help my YouTube profile. I'm a vain git, so massage my ego and like away. Easy come, easy go. If you want to click it, click it. If you don't, you don't. Now, if anyone has anything they would specifically like to ask me or like to see featured in a podcast, please feel free to message me and let me know, because if you don't tell me, I can't do it. I'd be delighted to try and provide whatever you want as well as what I'm enjoying doing. So you can message me on Ravelry, message me here on YouTube, or if you want to email me, email me. I don't care how you contact me. Go ahead. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. I've always had a really nice experience with the messages I've received. What would I say? This show we have a slight variation of the types of content that we've used in the past. We have a reason for that, and the reason is that I have been a very productive, busy boy. The works in progress and completed object sections are going to be slightly larger than they have been in the past. Consequently, I've allowed a little bit more time for them, and I've taken out my local area, mainly because it's been so blooming cold here. This is the first brilliantly sunny day we've had, so I haven't been out filming outdoors. The sun having reappeared, I may have to use some of my finished objects and go out and do some filming, but I'll speak to you about that shortly. So, time for a bit of knitting. Where do we begin? I think we start with works in progress today. The first work in progress I have is here, and this is, forgive me, a very tiny start of a toe-up sock. But this is sock number 2. Now, a lot of you who have been watching me will recognise the cone. This cone was an awful lot bigger. It was originally 750, 780 grams of wool from Hunters of Brora, an old woolen mill which has closed down, which I purchased from King Craig Fabrics. And because it smelled of machine oil and it was oiled roughly double knitting weight yarn, I decided that I would use it for a vintage pattern. And this is what I used for the vintage waistcoat pattern that I was working on. Well, the vintage waistcoat is finished, and you'll see that in completed objects, but there was still 200 grams left, and I thought, it's really nice, it feels wonderful, let's take the vintage waistcoat pattern and turn it into a sock pattern. So here we go, off the needles last night. It's not been washed, it's not been blocked. I don't think I'm going to bother to block socks, because you wash them, you roll them up, you stick them on your feet. I don't tend to fold them out flat and tart them up and show them off and then stick them away in a drawer on blockers. I roll them up one inside the other and stick them in a drawer. This is ribbed toe, ribbed German short row heel, vanilla sole, and a structured ribbed instep and leg, 2x2 rib on the top, and it comes to about halfway up my calf. I've got 1 or 2 stills. I'll pop the stills in as well. Anyone who's actually following me on Instagram, you'll have seen this on already. I tried it on last night when I finished it. It's super comfy and it's not even been washed yet. I do like it. So when this is washed and when number 2 is complete, I will come back and say, here's the pair of socks, there they are on my feet, I'm really happy with them. And if there's any of this yarn left after that, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I do know that while I was in King Craig, I did notice 2 more cones of the same yarn, and I'm incredibly tempted when I pass through Brora tomorrow, because I will be in Brora tomorrow at some point, to see if they're open, nip in and try to buy at least 1 more. I know my stash does not need any enhancement. I know there's more than enough to keep me going for a couple of years, but this stuff has been so nice to work with. And it's such a neutral background with these little flecks of bright colours involved. I'll get some stills of the cone rather than try, oh well no, we could. We'll just zoom in there where there's some bright sunlight and hopefully the colour will show up well for you. But these little flecks of red, blue and yellow that are in here on that beige background are really, really nice. So that's work in progress number 1. Happy with that. We'll try and get it finished quite quickly. Work in progress number 2 was a work in progress the last time I spoke to you. I was working on this sock, and this sock, when you saw it last time, was a piece of stranded work, and the stranded work became so stiff and uncomfortable that I decided it needed to be redone. So it was ripped out and it was re-knitted. Again, toe up, really simple, 3x1 rib on the upper, stocking stitch on the bottom, German short row heel, ribbed at the back, and just 2x2 rows coming up there, and the green yarn fades from a dark bottle green to a light mid green, and as it fades through the sock, it looks really quite pleasant. The blue is 100% wool, lamb's wool. The green is drops. I've forgotten the name of the blooming yarn, and I can't find the band. So it is a piece of drops. I can't remember what it is. It's lovely. It feels nice. It looks nice. So I'm going to finish that one off, get the second one of that done, and that leaves me a second pair. So I'm happy with that. Work in progress number 3. Work in progress number 3 got put away in October because there were other things on the go, and we were in the lead up to Christmas and trying to get Christmas projects finished, and I had too many works in progress on the go. So this was the scarf, the gents scarf, which I had started using colours taken from an old military regiment, simply because I recognised them when I saw them in the wool shop. It's a piece of stranded work, as you can imagine, and this has come back out ready to be finished off. I did a couple of rows on it the other night. I'm going to continue to work away on it, try and get it finished over the rest of this coming week or so, and get it shown to the rest of the world. I would say that it's 100% wool. The yarn is DMC's Merino Wool Woolly Natural Knitting. 3 colours, and the 3 colours are colour 02 lot 4574, which is a black, colour 083 lot 1299, which is a drab olive green, and the third one, he says, reaching for it, is colour 052 lot 4576, which is this lovely deep red. It's not an in-your-face pillar box red, it's slightly more muted, but in combination with the other two, it looks really nice. So we'll try and get this finished. Those of you who have spoken to me online wondering what had happened to this because you were looking for the pattern, when I finish it, I'll get the pattern written up and we'll get it published as quickly as we possibly can. Over the last couple of months, from November, December, there has been a massive amount of Christmas present knitting. There's been knitting for kids in the family, which I absolutely adore, as you know. There has been some knitting for myself, if you remember the Tammy and shawl from last episode. All of these things are sitting in notebooks, waiting to be transcribed, typed, sent to an editor and published. I am now officially retired. The paperwork from the Scottish Public Pensions Agency medical advisor came through just before Christmas, as you may know, and they offered me permanent retirement on medical grounds. So my pension has now started. I have officially finished work, and I can sit back and enjoy my retirement, and I'm hoping to find the time, now that I'm sitting back, to get all of these patterns written up, get them up onto Ravelry, and those of you who want them can then access them to your heart's delight. And I hope you thoroughly enjoy them when they are ready. So we will try and get that done over the next weeks, because while that's happening, there is other design and development work happening as well in my head constantly. Ideas pop in and I work away on them. I am exploring other ways of filling all of this free time as my health has stabilised. I've been finding things which I can do which don't leave me getting breathless. I did have a nice visit to my local hospital 2 weeks ago for an angiogram. My medical consultant thought it was prudent that he made sure that there was no general wear and tear damage or anything more sinister about my breathlessness being caused by my heart. Fortunately, after the angiogram, which has left me with still a bit of a sore wrist at times and a small, tiny little incision scar on the wrist where they went in my right arm, no major difficulties. There's nothing in my heart that's any different to any other average person over the age of 40, according to my consultant. So that bit of me appears to be working fine. I continue to take my anticoagulants, and hopefully they will continue to control whatever caused the clots to form in my lungs. Consequently, I do still get breathless from time to time, and the cardiac consultant reckons that it is just down to these massive clots. He said he had looked at the CT scans, and in all his years he'd never seen anything quite like it. Which inspires confidence when you're lying on an operating table and he's about to stick a scalpel in your wrist. But a very, very nice man, an absolutely superb team in the cardiology catheterisation lab at Raigmore and Inverness. So my compliments to them. Ladies and gents, you are absolutely superb. You know how to put someone at rest, you know how to spoil them with cups of tea and sandwiches when they're sitting there waiting for their pneumatic cuff to have its pressure let out over the couple of hours after the procedure. It was fascinating, absolutely fascinating. So, Sharf is back in production and hopefully will be completed soon. I'll look forward to getting it done and getting it written up for the people who have asked for it. It's not that I've forgotten you, it's not that I'm ignoring you, it's just I have created so much over the last wee while, producing ideas and writing them and test knitting them faster than I can keep up with myself. Maybe this is a good thing, maybe not, we will wait and see. So that finishes that bit. I'd like to jump back now in time, and in here I'm going to insert a little piece of video from earlier in the year when Janet, Val and myself took a road trip and went to the open warehouse event at King Craig Fabrics. We rummaged through their stock of yarn, and you'll maybe remember when you see it, Val finding something that she fell in love with.
My daughter's favourite, just cut.
Nice yarn.
Oh God, I've done it again.
Oh dear Valerie, what have you gone for this time?
Racing green, chunky.
Megan. No, your daughter's predictable. This is wonderful.
Not that Mum is predictable. This is just too wonderful.
Yarn Aladdin's Cave.
Oh yeah, yarn and fabric. Died, gone to heaven.
All courtesy of Sean. Hello Sean.
Hi. So, all these? Yeah.
Oh yeah. It'll be 25 pounds, whatever the other one was.
So Val has actually finished the bottle green garment that she had planned, and it's sitting in front of me. She knitted it for her daughter Megan, who, as you may guess, is an adult, and I have it here. So I'm going to stand up because this is a lovely piece of knitting. It's bottle green, chunky, 100% wool. It's absolutely gorgeous. There's some lovely cabled detail on the front there, which is just getting picked up, I noticed, because of the sun streaming through the conservatory. It's absolutely lovely. I like the collar that she's popped on it. Now this was knitted, I think, to be given at Christmas. Whether it was actually given at Christmas or whether it was dropped off here for us to look at, I don't know. But Val did say, let everyone who saw the podcast see the finished item. The yarn was absolutely superb. One of the best bargains she's had for years, she said, and she's absolutely delighted with it. So Val, come in, pick up Megan's cardigan, take it home, let the poor woman wear it. And thank you for bringing it in and letting me see it, because it is, as I say, really gorgeous. I'm absolutely astonished at how beautifully it knitted up. The yarn itself looked to be of super quality, and when you see that item finished, it's just a big green hug, is the only way to describe it. So that's Val's completed object. Let's move on to some of mine. Well, completed object number 1 for me is not here. Some of you may remember this cotton arriving earlier in the year after I met up with Helen Duffin, Sprite 966 in Glasgow. And we were in her local yarn store, and I saw these 3, and I instantly thought they would make a great mock Icelandic for one of the grandsons. So, stills are available because the sweater and the accompanying hat are now with Leo. And they get kept in the car, and he puts them on and off in the car apparently. His mum and dad are delighted with him. Leo, at 6 months old, wears whatever he's told. So that was finished object number 1. Photographs will have regaled the screen as I've been blethering on. Last couple of episodes, I had spoken to you about my spinning. Yes, I got introduced to spinning because of a drop spindle kit from Mulan Yarns, thanks David Williamson. I then found a company online who would supply me with 100-gram bags of Jacob tops at a very reasonable price. I think I paid something like just over £1 for each 100 grams, 120, 130 per 100 grams. Absolutely superb price. Sat with the drop spindle, spun away, and ended up with some white, some grey, some black. So, the grey and the white were used as a grey and a white, and the remnants put together, plied up together. The same with some white and some black. There is some black left on its own, and it's lovely. It's really, really nice. So I had a fair bit of black and not so much of the rest. So at the end of one of the other projects I was working on, I decided that I would take all the oddments and put them in a hat. So here is my Jacob Oddments hat. It's a funny shape, it's a pointy hat. I've got this thing about pointy hats. I love gnome dwarfy pointy hats. So this one was knitted from the top down, and it's just stripes. So it's black, and then it's a white and black stripe, and then a black stripe, and then a black and grey stripe, and then a black stripe, and then a white and grey stripe, and then a black stripe, and then we start again. And that went down until we got near the bottom, and then I thought, because I'm using this to sample the yarns, I would like to see a block of each of these yarns knitted up on its own. So, there's a block of black, a block of grey, a block of grey and black, a grey and white, a black and white. Just all interconnected to let me see them. And then a simple black 1x1 rib at the bottom. And it produces for me a nice pointy woolly bonnet. I'm quite happy with that. It stands up a wee bitty. Does it look a bit silly? Yes, it probably does. Do I care? Not a jot. Does it have to be worn that way? Well, no, the rib could be folded up and it pulls down to slightly more of a beanie shape with just a tiny little point on it. This is really good at cutting the wind out. The elasticity in this yarn, because I'm a new spinner and it's slightly overspun, it's really quite springy. So this has been knitted, it's been washed, it's been dried, and I really like it. I'm enjoying it. I've got these little bits of oddments of my hand spun left. I don't know quite what I'm going to do with them yet, but we will get there. So that is finished object number 2. Finished object number 3 came about because of my visit to Gongcrafts. When I went out to visit Clive and Laurence, they had asked me about my favourite colours. And the reason they did that was that they had decided to produce a yarn that described me. And if you remember last time, I showed you a skein of what they had called Beardy Peacock. And this is Beardy Peacock in ball form. A second skein arrived through the door with a lovely little card saying, thanks for featuring us in your podcast, and it was so nice to sit and chat to you. They're lovely, lovely people, and what they produce is beautiful yarn. This is a blend of merino, silk, seaweed, and just a little bit of Angelina. Tiny little bit of sparkle in it as well. And it's lovely. And I was looking for a project for it. I thought, well, what am I going to do with it? I had just finished all of the hand spun, and I thought, there's not enough to make a hat, but allowing for where we live in Caithness and how biting the wind is, I wanted something knitted for me rather than designed for anyone else. And I decided that I would take my Jacob handspun, I would take the Beardy Peacock, and I would put them together into a cowl. And I wanted it to be something which would be cosy, neat, would fit under a fleece easily or under a jacket easily. I didn't want it to be too voluminous. And the finished item is here. So here we have one finished Beardy Peacock cowl. I decided to go for an older style entrelac pattern and alternate the grey and white Jacob handspun with a handspun Beardy Peacock that Gongcrafts provided. Put it together, knitted it flat, single seam up the back, and then picked up the ribs top and bottom, and knitted the rib, arranged to double the rib so that it's twice its thickness, stitched it back on itself, and ended up with this. And it is pleasant to look at. The Beardy Peacock has so many lovely nuanced colours in it. It's lovely. It's really nice. And when it goes on, it's long enough to be sort of snood-like. I could have it as a hat and pull it there, almost hooded or balaclava. It's long enough to stay down quite well at the back. Or pull it all the way down and you have something which is super soft and cosy because of the merino, ultra warm because of the way it sort of wrinkles up and fills the space. It's wide enough on the bottom edge that it folds flat under a jacket to stop the wind getting in. It works. It's a piece of functional menswear design. Some guys would not be happy wearing the range of colours maybe that's in the Beardy Peacock. I personally, as I've said before, I don't give a jot. I don't care. It's comfy, it's cosy. The grey and white are fairly neutral masculine colours. Big entrelac sweaters using colour combinations like that did appear in the late 80s for men and for women. This is a 7-stitch entrelac, so it's 7 stitches, 14 rows to each block. Some people like to do what they call reverse knitting, rather than turning back and forward. Personally, I just turn. And I do a knit row, a purl row, a knit row, a purl row of 7 stitches. It's seconds. And turning it backwards and forwards, yes, some people might say it's a waste of energy, but it's quite therapeutic and I enjoy it. So there have been several requests for a pattern for this. I have actually started to write one out because this came entirely out of my head. I didn't create a pattern for this. Knitting entrelac is something which I memorised. Oh God, in my mid-20s. Yeah, it'd be about 1983-84 when I first saw entrelac knitting, and I just memorised how it was done. It's been in my head ever since. So, no major problems. Entrelac cowl featuring Beardychiel's handspun and Gongcraft's Beardy Peacock. I'm sure if anybody likes Beardy Peacock and they wanted to get in touch with Clive and Laurence, they would be more than happy to spin some more up for you and sell it to you. I have to say, it's one of the nicest yarns I've knitted with as an art yarn. Sometimes when I look at art yarns I think, oh God, I really want that. It's thick, it's thin. This is fairly consistent. 1 or 2 thin pieces, but nothing horrendous. And not massively over twisted. It's really nice. And alongside the naturals, the grey and the cream, I think it works quite well as an accent. It's the high point on the cowl for me. So I would say to you, finished object number 2. So finished object number 1 was Leo, finished object number 2 is the cowl, finished object number 3 is here. Now, this is Texer yarn mohair. 78% mohair, 13% wool, 9% nylon. This is straight off the needles and sewn. It hasn't been washed, it hasn't been blocked, it hasn't been brushed to bring up its halo. It's just a really, really nice little piece of children's wear. This is a simple stocking stitch cardigan. I did try using the pattern, the vintage pattern from last episode, to create some texture, but it looked awful in this particular mohair. I'll bring this up nice and close and I'll have a look at the back. But the range of colours that are in there are absolutely wonderful, and it's lovely and ethereal. The whole thing weighs in that entire little cardigan, which is about a 30-inch, 28 to 30-inch chest, and is going to our niece who lives in Switzerland as something cosy. There's only 120 grams of mohair there, and there's less than 50 grams of yarn has gone into the ribs. Because this is for a little kiddie, the collar, bands and cuffs have been knitted in yellow acrylic, because I know that for some little kids even superwash merino type yarns can be uncomfortable if it's straight on the wrist and they don't have long sleeves. The mohair itself is incredibly soft, it's lovely, so I'm sure she'll be fine with that, but I decided to err on the side of caution because she's so far away it would be difficult to arrange to do anything with them if I had to change it. So Alyssa, one little cardie just for you. I hear my front door opening, so we're going to pause there and I will be back shortly. We're back. Sorry for the slight hiccup there, folks. My son had arrived to drop off some shopping that his mother had asked him to pick up, and it was my lunch today. She's gone off to Inverness to a hospital appointment and left me here, and today happens to be the day that the folk in her office, my son works for the same company, order out. So she is in the habit of ordering out lunch for her and I and bringing it in on a Friday. Because she's not here, she said to Alistair, order lunch for your dad and take it round at 1 o'clock. So it's now 1 p.m. He's just been for a visit and that's him off home for his lunch. Right, works in progress. We've just finished Alyssa, we've done the cowl. Moving on, the next one is... yeah, it's got to be the vintage waistcoat. It's the only one that's left. So, over the last little while I have been working on this version of vintage waistcoat pattern, edited to fit someone with a 60-inch chest, which is what I was needing, and it's here. I am not someone who does well with things which are tight. I like my clothes to be comfy and to be loose. Consequently, I wasn't looking for this to be incredibly neat. Now, if I stand up, I'll show you some of its more interesting features. On the back, there's a bog standard rib at the bottom, and that bog standard rib comes round to where it meets with a slight offset the front, and at the bottom of the front is the I-cord bind off that I decided to use to replace a 4 or 5 stitch rib, and that runs round all the way up the front, around the collar, down the other side, and around this drop pointed front face on the waistcoat. The waistcoat does have pockets, and it's been knitted with some extra length in it because I hate the bottom of my back getting cold, and I could have knitted it and arranged that it came quite nicely to my waistline and sat there like a tiny little fitted suit waistcoat, but it's for sitting around the house in, it's for keeping me warm, so a little bit extra length to take that down past my bottom. I want it to come just off the shoulder, so I'm happy there. There's no fastening on it yet. I couldn't decide on what I fancied in terms of buttons, clips or whatever for this. And when I saw the I-cord bind off, when this was lying drying the other day, I suddenly thought, you know something, I'm going to pop a zip in there. So I've got a 15.5-inch zip fastener ordered, and I'll simply stitch that in at the front, and that will solve the problem for me. So, vintage waistcoat pattern from the late 40s, early 50s, reworked to fit a man of distinguished stature with a 60-inch chest, and it's again the Hunters of Brora yarn. It is super comfy. I really like the way it feels. The pockets just big enough to hold a hanky, not big enough for anything else. They're almost decorative more than anything. So I could actually have missed them out, but I like it. I'm happy with it. and I'm just going to wear it for the rest of the podcast. And that is the last of the finished objects. Now, so far I have had this waistcoat and a pair of socks, and there might be some yarn left over out of 100% wool yarn, which cost me less than £10. So 750 grams at just under £10. That's less than £1 for 100 grams. Absolutely stunning value for money. In fact, it's between 70 and 80p for 100 grams. So I would recommend that to anyone. I would say go get it. Now, there's a finished object missing. Hold that thought for just a second. I'll be back. Some of you may recognise my This Boy handmade project bag, and in this particular bag are one or two bits and pieces. There are some more finished objects, and we'll just haul them all out. I think that's everything that I'm needing. So, I spoke to you earlier about the Jacob that I'd been working with, the stuff that went into the cowl. And when I was in Glasgow earlier in the year, I did some shopping at my favourite Asian food store, and one of the things that they had in stock, which I like to get for cooking purposes when I can get it, was fresh turmeric root. It's quite rare to get this far north, but getting it was worth doing, and I brought some home with me. Because I had paid a recent visit to my friends Clive and Laurence at Gone Crafts, and I'd been looking at their natural dyeing, or their botanical dyeing processes, I thought, right, just how vibrant is this stuff going to be if I use it on some of the leftovers from the Jacob? I've got the natural colours, which I have just finished spinning. Let's give it a try. Well folks, we've come outdoors and I'm looking at the yarn that's been dyed, the white, the grey and the black. It went into the turmeric, having sat in its mordanted citric acid warm water for about 25 minutes. Went into a pot with dye at the same temperature. There was 450 millilitres of water along with 100 grams of pulped turmeric root. There was 150 ml of mordant water with it. And then went on a cooker on a low heat, came up to a simmer, has simmered for 15 minutes, and we've now popped it outside to cool, and we'll wait and see what happens once it's cool and it's had a rinse. Oh, and the pot is aluminium, in case you're wondering, an old jam kettle that's not being used for anything else, so we'll see if that makes a difference. So I have 3 minis of Beardychiel's first botanically dyed yarn. These were my experiment, and you'll see that the white has, as you would expect with turmeric, become a fluorescent yellow. The grey has become a fluorescent green. It's absolutely wonderful. And the black has taken, where there's any guard hair or where there's been the slightest hint of grey in the black, it has turned orange. But it's very subtle. It doesn't actually jump out at you. But I have to say, I would quite happily buy cream or white, and I would buy grey again, and I would self-dye using botanicals. These colours are just so yummy. It leaves no funny smell, nothing else. Really, really simple dyeing process. Has the dye stayed fast? It has stayed quite fast. I have had them sitting in bright sunlight and it has been relatively successful so far. They haven't faded, which I'm told that turmeric can. They were mordanted just with citric acid, and that has maybe helped it to hold a little on the natural fibre from the research that I had done. The green yarn that's holding it together is actually some offcuts of that blue. So you can see that the cotton has taken the effects of the turmeric rather well. So, first dyeing experiment in finished object. What am I going to do with them? 3 10-gram skeins of chunky or Arden weight yarn? I don't know, but they'll go into something. There'll be an accent, a couple of thin stripes within something else. As you know, there were little bits of the Jacob left, and they may become a kiddie's hat or something. I don't know yet, haven't decided. So there were those. And there are these. These are the first 3 finished skeins of Beardychiel's hand spun from scratch. These are the first 3 skeins that have come off the Ryland and Jacob sheep, the Ryland and Jacob lambs, whose fleeces were handed to me a couple of weeks ago. So there's about 150, 160 grams there, which I have skirted, washed, combed, carded what was left, and spun. And when I say spun, I mean spun, because a few weeks ago I came across, on offer, for sale in the far north, a spinning wheel. Now, I've been looking for a spinning wheel for a while, since before Christmas. All the fault of that David Williamson man and a couple of others who have encouraged me, Clive, to keep spinning. The fleeces came in free of charge, courtesy of a local farmer or crofter, and it was a pleasure to actually get them in, smelling of sheep, start to sort through them and take out some of the stuff that has become this yarn. Now, this has got a mixture of browns and greys. I didn't bother separating the bits of brown from the bits of grey. I just combed and carded them together, so I've got this sort of mottled yarn. Don't know what it's going to be like when it knits up. It looks to be a double knitting, but that was only batch number 1. So batch number 1 is a finished object. Batch number 2, there's another 350 grams in the bag. This has been washed, picked and washed, so the locks are here in the bag, and you'll see that there are the odd white bit, there's some browns, some greys, there's still the odd little bit of organic matter in there, the odd little bit of straw has still sneaked through the washing process, but that'll come out as I comb and card. And the combing and carding by hand has been quite good fun so far. I did some just the other day, and it left me with 2 rather nice rolags and 2 nice little nests. The staple length on this fleece is only just 3 inches. It's quite a short staple length, between 2 and 3 inches, but it feels okay. It spins up nicely, so I'm going to persevere through spinning up 600-700 grams of that, because it's mottled, because it has that grey mixed with brown mixed with white. I am going to hand dye it. myself. I have done some investigating of whether or not some of it could be bleached out and then over dyed. Some of what's there will over dye quite nicely when it's spun and take on maybe a dark green, maybe some yellow, some turmeric or something. I've been reading quite a bit about dyes from seaweeds, so I might do some exploring if I get a chance. Janet and I are free at a weekend and we go down for a walk and explore. We'll see just what varieties of seaweed are on the local shoreline here, and if they're usable, bring a couple of pounds back with us, pulp them, boil them, extract a dye and dye up a sample just to try it. It's absolutely fascinating. It's part of the knitting, the crafting, the production process, which I had never actually considered in detail before. So from that point of view, I'm rather looking forward to that bit of keeping my brain active and exploring what is possible. Eventually, I would hope to let someone have a sample of what I've spun and dyed to knit up and tell me what they think. Am I wasting my time? Is it nice to work with? I personally will work with just about anything, as you know. So that was that bit. And that finishes completed objects for this time round. So where are we next? Well, the next thing is vintage patterns. And this is the vintage pattern I have chosen for this particular episode. And it does not contain any male patterns whatsoever. It's called Vogue Knit number 95, and it's reprinted from Vogue and Vogue Knitting books. The Condé Nast Publications Limited, price 1 shilling. The designs, the hairstyles, the jewellery that's involved inside leads me to believe that I'm looking at something from the 1940s rather than the late 40s, early 50s, I'm thinking. But some of the evening wear, and these are mainly evening wear designs, are very Audrey Hepburn, pre-Audrey Hepburn. They're very pre-Marilyn Monroe in shape and style of lady and of model as well, which makes me think it is slightly older. There is no date anywhere inside the book, so if anyone can come up with possible ideas, there are 2 absolutely stunning shawls in here as well. Now I know that you can't see these pages in close up when I'm holding them up. I will scan sections of them and include some of the stills for the actual products. There's a stunning little beaded top on this page, which I think some of my friends out there who are into beaded knitting might consider quite an interesting possibility. But some of the adverts I think are absolutely hilarious. Here we have leaflet number 626, a charming jumper with the ballet dancer motif in full colour, price 6pence. In case of difficulty, write direct enclosing 8pence worth of stamps. Knitted with pastorelle, shrink-resistant 3-ply botany. If you remember, we had a conversation a couple of episodes ago. Merino, when it first started coming into this country, was given a generic trademark of botany. And it described anything that was coming from the New World, Botany Bay. One of the Pennine brands, the wools without washing worries, spun and distributed to retail stockists by Newhill and Earnshaw Limited of Bingley in Yorkshire. I think it's absolutely hilarious. There's a Scots advert here for the Shetland and Scotch warehouse. Pure Shetland wool, the best wool in the world comes from the sheep of Shetland. It is pure, hard-wearing, protective, and when made up into knitted wear, retains its shape indefinitely. Such wool can be obtained from the Shetland and Scotch warehouse in a variety of tones and shades, and all standard colours. 2-ply pure Shetland wool gives a 3-ply effect when knitted and is wound in cuts of approximately 2 ounces. Personal shoppers are welcomed and post orders receive prompt attention. All shades, including white, fawn and grey, priced at 3 shillings and 9 per cut. Postage is free, and that's from Edward Standen Limited. 112 German Street, St James, London, SW1. So the mind boggles. There's another one here, pure Shetland wool, knitting wool from Tulloch of Shetland, Department 22, Lerwick, the Shetland Isles. I don't know if Tulloch still exists, but I'll do some asking around. I would be intrigued to find out if they do. Furwool Angora knitting wool from Angora Beardychiel Limited near Leeds. Where are we? Mountain Made wools made in England. Mountain Made easy to follow patterns. Knitted in Mountain Made Boucle or 3-ply super botany. Absolutely anodized knitting needles, sock pins, crochet hooks, etc. also available. It's absolutely stunning. And there is an advert for Target knitting wools in the back for a knitted dress, and the image on the back of this pattern for the lady in the knitted dress is out of this world. She just looks so Queen Mother. It's not true. It's just wonderful. It's a lovely little booklet. I know I said in these sections I would try to concentrate on patterns for men, but because 2 weeks ago was Vogue Knitting Live, having come across a Vogue leaflet, I thought we'll have to feature this one this time. The range of stuff that's in there is all very, very fine. As I look through it, I'm not seeing anything appearing in here which is knitted in anything heavier than 3-ply. So when I look at the needle sizes, it's size 13s and 11s. So a size 11 needle is 3mm. So that would be 2.5s and 3s that the stuff in here is knitted on average. The evening shawl is a crochet hook. They're both, the 2 evening wear shawls are both crocheted rather than knitted. But the design is just so carefully done. I don't know what to say. It's a lovely set of patterns. Very, very reminiscent of things I remember my grandmother wearing when I was little. So she'd obviously knitted some of these things and kept them through the 50s, or re-knitted some of them from the 50s. So one vintage pattern, piles of photographs to scan and put up. Do enjoy them. I don't know if anyone can trace the copyright on this. If anyone is interested in reading it, or anyone's interested in having a look through it and they live locally, I'm more than happy to arrange that. If any of you want to have a look at it, I will say that I will put this into my bag for the Edinburgh Yarn Festival. so that anyone who is interested and does want to meet up then and have a look at something ancient, I'll bring this one with me. It's just so mind-blowingly, historically fun for a knitter. Can't resist it. So that's the vintage pattern. Where does that leave us? Well, that leaves me at the end of what I've been up to, the end of what I've been producing over the last few weeks. As I say, my health continues to go on apace steadily, nothing awfully dreadful happening. I have been spending quite a bit of time talking to Eva Christie about this year's Perth Festival of Yarn, which is due to happen on the 10th of September at the Dewar Centre in Perth. And Eva has just started on YouTube some podcasts or video logs called Diary of a Yarn Festival Director, which are short 5-10 minute bits talking about the process of putting the entire event together. So those combined with the entries on Facebook, Twitter, we've just opened an Instagram account for the festival, and there's a website, perthfestivalofyarn.uk, www.perthfestivalofyarn.uk, which is under construction and grows every few days. As new vendors come online, their names are being added, and the vendors are being asked to send us in the information that they want included in the website to market them, or to send us the appropriate URLs to where they want our festival goers to look at their website, their Facebook pages, anything else like that. So we'll gather all that information centrally for festival goers so that it's easy to track. It's shaping up to be a really exciting event this year. Eva has been on the phone several times. We've had some wonderful long conversations at strange hours of the day and night. Both Josh and Janet must think we're off our trolleys, but some of the things which she has managed to arrange are absolutely amazing, and I for one am really looking forward to this year's event. Other than that, I'm knitting and watching podcasts. And what have I been watching? Well, I'm a creature of habit. I know that I have friends who like to podcast graze, and they'll go from podcast to podcast, trying a new thing every day, looking for something new, something different, something entertaining, and they celebrate them when they find them. Helen Duffin does that beautifully, and if you follow Helen Sprite966 on Twitter, every couple of days Helen will tweet the URL for something she's found which is really worth a watch, and I've never been disappointed in any of the things when I've gone to look at anything that she's tweeted. So if you're looking to graze podcasts, follow Helen on Twitter, and she does find some hidden gems of podcasts which are all worth a watch. But I am a creature of habit. I have people who I enjoy listening to, who help me to relax. They may not be everyone's cup of tea, but I don't care, because I watch them for my entertainment, not for yours. And foremost of those is my friend Nathan Taylor, who through knitting and conversations about knitting, I have to say I do think of as a friend. His last podcast was great fun yet again. I mean, he puts a smile on my face every time I see him. He did say that he's looking to post more often, which he has done already. So I noticed that he had another post just the other day and a tutorial the other day. So I haven't actually watched those yet, so I'm going to have to go and get that done. Maybe while Janet's in Raidmore this afternoon and I'm sitting knitting, I'll stick him on the big telly while I'm working on my socks, and that'll be something playing in the background. What else? Bakery Bears, Dan and Kay Jones. They are so laid back when they podcast. They're almost horizontal. I think they're hilarious. They're absolutely wonderful. It's obvious that there's meant to be a structure, and it's obvious that they communicate, but like most married couples, when one is communicating, the other one is not always fully engaged. That never ever happens in my house. No, I wouldn't say that even if Janet was standing beside me. There are no points in time when I'll be having a conversation about what we're having for dinner the next day and she's having a conversation about what we're going to watch on the TV that night. That we're completely at cross purposes, but it's nice to know that we're not the only people in the world who do that. Dan and I have exchanged a couple of messages in the last month, having discovered that we are both retired teachers who knit. Now it's strange that in a community as widespread and as varied as the knitting community, two folk, when they start to actually exchange information, find out that they are both from the same common ground. Okay, we talk completely different subjects, but we are both teachers, we're both retired on health grounds. Absolutely fascinating. So good luck to you guys over the next few days. I'm told things are going to be interesting for you, so I'm thinking of you. Sprite966, Helen. Now, she normally keeps me sane. She is a very down-to-earth podcaster. And I like my sanity coming from Helen. But I've not seen a post from her for a few weeks now, and I'm wondering, have I missed one? Because she's quite regular. So I'm going to have to go hunting in case I have missed one, because I wouldn't want to miss out. I haven't missed out on the tweets, so I know she's working away in the background there somewhere. But I'm not conscious of having seen a podcast the last week or two. And Helen is generally pretty regular with podcasts. So I wonder what she's been knitting. She's one of the most prolific knitters I've come across. On Instagram there seems to be a finished object every day or every second day. She's phenomenally fast and produces amazing work. I really like seeing it. This boy knits, David Rakes. David had a wee podcasting break for a while there, and just in the last week there was a podcast saying, I've had a wee break and I'm back, and I'm looking forward to getting back into my podcasting on a regular basis. And I was delighted to see that. Absolutely wonderful, because David, as a knitter and a dyer, has some absolutely fascinating things to say sometimes, and I hate missing out on them. Now, Kirsty, Little B. It's nice having new podcasts appearing at this time in the new year. And Kirsty, your New Year podcast certainly put a smile on my face. The stranded work, the colour work that you've been doing the last little while is really, really nice. Anybody that's got the chance, go along, have a look at the Little B podcast, see what Kirsty's been producing. Expect another plain spoken, in your face Scott when you speak, when you hear her and you listen to her. But a great deal of respect for that woman, because what she produces is really, really nice. I am still in awe, 6 months on, 8 months on, of any Marvel fans out there. The Hydra gloves. Oh, absolutely fantastic. So that was that one. What else have I watched? Oh, while I was standing cooking, episode 30 of Sticks Plus Twine, Eric Lutz in Canada, was nice, relaxing, easy listening. A great report from Vogue Knitting Live on the things he'd been up to, made me incredibly jealous. I'm just jealous of the geographical availability for somebody like him. At least he's on the same continent and he can get to events like that. I would love to have that flexibility or that amount of disposable income, but I'm afraid I'm not in that position. So I'll settle for Edinburgh Yarn Festival and Perth Festival of Yarn, and maybe Shetland if I go mad this year. Now I have to say, Eric, I love the sweater project you were working on for your partner. The fact that you've chosen to knit it for functionality in acrylic I think is absolutely wonderful. It provides for easy transport and easy cleaning, as you say in your podcast, and I like that we can all, as knitters, dip into whatever yarn pot is appropriate for the project we have on the go. Like me with the sweater for Alyssa. I have some good gold quality mohair, which is going to keep her lovely and cosy and warm, but I've combined that with some nice acrylic bands that's going to make it easy for the little one to wear. I found this yarn, this old yarn, tweedy yarn for myself, old man yarn for an old man vintage waistcoat. It all came together, and yes, it's 100% wool, and I'm knitting it for myself, and I'm knitting it on the cheap, and that's fine, absolutely fine by me. So good on you, Eric, for doing that. It's nice to see that. I'm a little jealous of your stash enhancements, all of your acquisitions over the last wee while. Again, we'll see what happens at Edinburgh. We've already started discussing budget for that event. I have a funny feeling that the budget for that event might actually be based on volume rather than price. Although, in saying that, Janet was saying the other night that we should be very, very wary of not spending too much. So we'll wait and see. My new watch over the last couple of weeks is a podcast called Craft House Magic, presented by Ellie, and Ellie comes across as incredibly cheery. I've really enjoyed sitting back, enjoying my first few days of being officially retired until a pile of other things crop up for me to fill in my time. And I chose to watch episode 9, which was about random dialogues from big suppliers not doing what they should, and it was really interesting that there were some really nice projects, some lovely socks, some nice shawls on the go, and just a really nice presenter, a nice cheery podcast. Thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think I'll need to go back and dip in and watch some more. And that's that bit. That's what I've been watching. That's what I've been up to, filling my time. You've seen what I've been knitting. Have I been doing anything else? Well, I told you about the trip to the hospital. Tomorrow, my wife and I are off to Inverness with grandson. His 7th birthday treat is a trip to the local big city. A trip to his favourite soft play area where he can bounce around like a mad thing, which when you're 7 you do. And then he wants to spend time at Smith's toy store, which is a large toy store whose shelves are 15 feet high and just full of nonsense. And he has money that he's been given for his birthday, which his mum says he's allowed to take with him and spend, and it will be mayhem. It'll be, Granda, look at this. Granda, have you seen this? Granda, look at this. What will I buy? Can you help me to add this up? I can imagine the conversations now. So I expect to be hauled up and down some of these aisles 2 or 3 times until I go looking for a chair because I can't hack it. And he'll just have to run up and down the aisles and bring me things to look at, which is absolutely fine, because that means by the time we finish that visit, if he's been to Playzone and we take him for some lunch, by mid-afternoon he might actually feel dozy in the car, because our plan is to have him sleep over tonight and then up and out early hours in the morning, and head for Inverness about 7:30, 8 a.m. so that we're in by 10. Yeah, you want to go to your local big city and you've got a 2.5 hour drive. The joys of living in the far north of Scotland. Fortunately though, we don't live further out where some of our friends do, where they might have the first half of that on a single track road. So that's that bit. So back to this episode, and the episode has the title 500 Miles. Title of a famous song by the Proclaimers. anyone in the UK will probably know the Proclaimers. Those of you who are slightly further afield might know them, you might not. Look them up, look up the tune 500 Miles, have a listen to it, have a look for the musical Sunshine on Leith, you'll get more information. But why did I choose that particular title? Well, the other day I decided to check on my YouTube comments. There was a ping came into my Gmail saying that there were some comments. So I opened, I've forgotten the name, YouTube Studio on my phone, and I went in to look. And there on the bottom of my YouTube Studio window were the most recently used 3 or 4 videos, the most recently arrived sets of comments. That was absolutely wonderful. Went in to reply to them, and for some reason the app didn't want to behave, so I'm going to have to go back and sit in front of a PC and actually send replies to 1 or 2 people, but that's okay. But I suddenly saw on the bottom of one of the management windows, your subscriber numbers have gone up. And lo and behold, they've gone up to more than 500 subscribers. So to the 500 people who are out there watching this podcast, thank you for your confidence in me. What a surprise, I wasn't expecting that. And I think I should celebrate in some way. So I've celebrated at this end by saying that I'm going to treat myself to a glass of wine or a glass of beer or something to celebrate. And I thought, well, all these people, it'd be nice to do something for them as well. So podcasters do giveaways, and I thought a 500 subscriber giveaway is appropriate. So I've decided that's exactly what I'm going to do. I had a rummage in my stash to see what was there that might be of interest, and I've decided that I'm going to give away 2 items. Number 1 will be a skein of Gongcraft's yarn from my stash. I have several, and I will choose one at random and send that to someone, and someone else will get a chance to dip in and have whatever one of my patterns they fancy from Ravelry. Lots of M's again. I said last time I wasn't going to do that, but I'm winging this little bit. So if you want to participate in the 500 subscriber giveaway, please subscribe and like the channel. Log on to Ravelry, come into the Ravelry group. I will open a thread called 500 Miles Giveaway. Go into 500 Miles Giveaway, leave me your name, say you're interested, and I will close that thread at midnight on the 19th of February. So that gives you 2 weeks on Sunday to think about it and decide if you want to go in to the draw. Log in, pop your name into the draw. Beardychiel's Knitting Banter, Beardychiel's Podcast. You'll find me as Beardychiel in Ravelry. It's easy to find the group. A lot of you are there already anyway, so feel free to pop in, leave a message saying that you're interested, and thank you all very much indeed for taking me to that milestone. I would never believe that 500 people would want on a regular basis to hear what I have to say, so I feel quite humble by that. I know that there are people out there with tens of thousands of followers. I may never have any more than 500, I may never have had any more than 200. Who would have known? But 6 months since we started this, and the podcast seemed to be popular, and they seem to be going well, so We'll give it 2 weeks and then a random number generator, and it'll be just about time for the next podcast, and I will tell you who the winner is. Well, ladies and gents, allowing for the film of the works in progress that I know I've already taken, there's, I think, maybe about 15 minutes, 20 minutes worth of that as well to tag on to this. That'll take us to over an hour, and I think that's long enough for anyone to have to suffer me. I would like to say it's been a pleasure sitting here today, which it has. The sun is out. I've kept the blinds closed to try and reduce some of the shadow. I would say happy knitting, good health, and I look forward to seeing you all next time. Cheerio!